Hi everyone, welcome to the Mystery Quilt Block Party, Block 11, Part 2. Part 1 can be found in our guides, and this one will be found there too, under guides, under the Mystery Quilt Block Party guide. You'll also find the directions there as well. I did Part 1 in November, and I showed you basically how to do the design, how to create it, and then how to stitch it in the machine. But to show everything makes the lesson very, very long, so I came up with the Part 2 of it. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at our block just to remind you of what it looks like. This is the house block that we're going to create, and it's done in the stitch and flip method, and then we've added an applique door and a window and some embroidery afterwards. So it looks like this in the software when you get it done. All your lines are going to look like that. So I just want to briefly go over how this comes about. This is the whole piece here, all stitched and done. And when I'm creating, I start with the solid pieces. And once I get them here, I will reorder them in my sequence window and make sure they're going in the order that I want to stitch them. So I want to stitch this down the center first. I like to go to the left side, so I'm going to stitch and flip on the right side. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to do the sides 8 and 9, and then the bottom 10. All right, so just so you understand that. And there's actually the lines there for another view of that. So basically it looks like this. Here's my center part, and out here, this is our placement line, and this is the stitch line. And that's actually the shape of the square. That's actually the blue, the edge of the blue is this line. And then I would put, it's going to stitch over here the placement line, and next I will lay my fabric on here and sew it and flip it. So I just like to make sure before I start that my fabric's going to cover the area where I need it, plus a little bit extra. And there's a tip in there that'll show you how to get the size of this. I will lay it here, right sides together, just like that. It's going to stitch right on that stitch line. I'll flip it over, and you'll see it would cover that line. I just use tape to hold it down. I don't do another stitching there. That's a lot of thread in your block, and you don't really need all that extra block. So it looks like this when it's stitched. And you can see this is the placement line, and I've had it flipped over. This is probably bigger than I need, but I prefer to do a bigger part rather than to get, the next part going down and find out, ooh, I'm off by just a smidgen. So for me, I like to do a little bit larger piece than I need. All right, so let me put this back together over here. If you have comments, you can put them down below in the comment section. I will come back afterwards and answer any questions that you may have. Even if you go back to the block number 11, part 1, I'll cover that as well. I always go back and take a look. So let's go to the software. Here's what it looks like in the software. I have a little extra window. I'm going to move that to the side. And what I do is I do start with this piece right here. And when I'm working on it, I might put my pieces in whatever order, but then when I get done, I realize I want this one to stitch, then this, then that. And I just go around my block and I move things into position. So it starts with the block base, which is these two here. The outer is the unfinished size. This would be your finished size, if that's what we're going to go with. There's some fudge room in there. Then this is the center. And then, as I said, I wanted that orange piece next. I could do it this way. This is not wrong, but my directions are going to say go left. So I want to make sure that I have that one in place. So everything's in line. The other thing I want you to notice is right here, there's a gap. And there's a gap because remove overlaps is not turned to never. And what I do, you can do it piece by piece, or you can select the whole thing and come to properties. And right here, remove overlaps. We want to set that to never, remove them. And double check that your fill is the same way. Down here, never. And then you can click off of it. That will help. You can see that filled in. if you don't do that, you might have some lines that are not straight as they try to go in different places, and it just gets confusing. So I prefer to make sure that remove overlaps is turned off. And then when I get to the house over here, I like to make sure, see how that's the outer one. So I would go back and double check that this is, my remove overlaps is set to never when I get to this part of it, before I put my applique in there. All right, so how did I build this? I'm going to go to a new page, because one of the things I do is I do turn on my grid, and I do turn on Snap. Now I'll show you what Snap does. Snap puts everything right on these lines for you, so you can keep things nice and straight. So if I want to start in the middle of this, it's not going to let me. It's gonna attach to a square or a line. So here's my one piece. When I'm ready to do that side piece, I'm going to go back to my shape, and I'm going to go here. And you can see it lines up just perfectly. Well, let's see, let's start it down on this side for a minute. It starts perfectly, and you can stop it perfectly where it is. The difference is when you have your snap turned off and you go to do your lines. Let's say I wanted to do this one up here. Let me get my shape. When you go up here, you might not, let's see, it's not snapping, so which is good. If I wanted to, I could put it a little bit away. So that's part of it. It's harder to keep it in line. I might get over here and they might not be exact. And I can see when it's a scooch different, not much, but you might be able to make perfect lines. But I like the snap for when I first start, and then I'll turn it off and the grid later on, because I don't need it. Once I get all this straight, I don't need it for the rest of it. So let's go to the solid house. The first one we're going to do is the center. I did include at the beginning of the directions a list of the pieces. So as we go and we have the size of the fabric, you can jot that down there so you can keep track of what size fabrics you need to cut. I always cut a little larger than what it says up in the toolbox. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create our placement. We already have, if we use the outline for this, that would be our stitch line. We don't need our fill, so I could delete that right now. So I'm going to click down here in my used colors. It's the only red in my design, so I know I'm only deleting that inside part. And then while the outside is selected, I'll go up here to convert, auto border, and I want it to be a 1/4 inch away, so I can put 0.25 there. If I'm in metric, I would put 0.25 IN, it'll convert for you, and then just OK. And it creates this outer block very nicely for you. Now, once I have that selected, I do like to go to my colors, and I'll change color of it. I'm going to make it pink. I'm going to try to go down my colors here as I go. It's a little, for me, it's less confusing. You can pick your colors any way you like, but every line needs to be a different color. Okay. And you'll notice in my sequence window, it is at the bottom, and it really needs to be up near the top before the stitch line here. So before the red box in the stitching, above it actually. So it's going to stitch this placement first. So there is my red box, and there's this. So it'll stitch the placement, then it'll stitch, I'll put my fabric down, and then it'll stitch this. This is the next one we're going to be doing, and I'm going to select it. And I don't need the inside, so I can go ahead and delete that. And I will be deleting this part as well, because we don't need it afterwards. But let's create we could use it, but I find using the auto border part of it much easier. Plus it shows a couple of tools for you to use. So we're going to go to auto border, same thing to the outside, and OK. There it is. And I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to change the color of that. I'm going to make it a dark brown. so that it is different from the orange that's at the top, so we can keep them apart. Now I need to make this lines because I don't straight lines because I don't need a square. So I'm going to go to edit nodes. And the reason I can do edit nodes and get my corner nodes is because this is an outline rather than a shape here. When I have the shape, I only get these, and I would have to go to convert to curves if I wanted to use that. But we created this outline, so I can select that. And now what I'm going to do is I want to right click on this node and do split outline, right click on the bottom one and split outline, click off my piece. And at this point, I think I'll even turn off my grid because it's much easier for you guys to see. And pretty much, let's get the snap off too. There we go. And make sure, because sometimes in between, there we go. All right, so there's my box. On this side, I should be able to select just this side and pull it over here. And let's see if it's doing, I don't think, oh, I didn't do break apart. That's what I forgot. All right, so while it's selected, sorry, you do need to do break apart. Then you click off of it and then you click back on. On your directions, you'll find it that way, even though I did it a little bit different order. So this is the part, we really don't need this part, so I'm going to delete that part. And I'm going to select it and hit delete. There we go. So it leaves just my line. Now this is the placement line, and I do need to put a stitch line right here because this is the line that's going to stitch and then flip over. Before I do that, I'm going to take this and I'm going to move up and put it after the stitch line for the center, which is the red square right here. And you'll see right here, that's our orange outline from the original. We don't need that now, so I'm going to select it and delete it. There we go. And I'll select my brown line again. And now I'm going to use duplicate because I want to make a second line, and I'm just going to move it over here. And to do that, if I hit duplicate, and then I come over here and I change color, I can make it orange because we haven't used that color. And then I can, if I look right here, see it's right in line. And that's why I did duplicate and not copy paste. Copy would put it at the bottom and I'd have to drag it up. If I put this in place where I need it, and then I have this piece here, I know that one comes after the other. This is going to be the placement. This is going to be my seam line. So the seam line will come after your placement. So I had to click off, click again, and I can use my arrow keys. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. I want to put it right over the red line because that's the stitch line for this, for that part. And that's where you would align it. Let's see here. There we go. This line that you see right here is your placement line for this fabric that was in the center. So now we have our placement line and a tack down line for our side piece. All right, and that's a placement line. That fabric needs to go at least this far, if not a little bit more. Then I'm going to start with this piece here, and I'm going to do I can delete my outline. I could leave the fill if I want. I could leave all of it and delete it all afterwards. So if we go up here to our convert auto border to the outside again, and I'm going to say okay, and it creates that line for me, which is perfect. I'm going to change the color of that, and I'm going to leave the green for the grass, and I'll pick this blue. So my piece is blue. This is the one. I'll go to edit nodes and I'll come in here and delete or split outline. I'm sorry. And I think I need to split outline over here because this is the line I want to keep. So let me do undo. So if you do that incorrectly, you can undo it. Come over here, split outline, come down here and split outline. And then you can select it, break apart, click off of it, and then you could click on this side of it, and you should be able to pull away that one side. And while that one side is selected, I can delete that side, and it leaves my one line right there. Okay, now I want to move that up into position, so I'm going to bring it up. Now the directions might have things slightly having you delete that box sooner, this box sooner than later. You can leave it in if you like it there until you get everything situated here, or you can delete it early on. When I demo it, I like to leave it there so you guys can see the order of where everything's going. And everything should fit into position numbers that I have here. If I've done them correctly, I may be off, who knows? Let's see, we're on the right side, so yep, so we would be here. So this is the placement line, and remember we did a duplicate, and we want to, I'm going to move this up so you can see it. We want to make that a different color, so I'm going to use this purple. There we go. So I have the blue line and a purple line, and since it's selected, my arrow keys won't work at this point, so you have to click off, click back on, then you can use your arrow keys, and you'll just put it on this side on those lines. Now, what's going to happen is it's a little hard to see that because this is here. So I'm going to select that and delete it. I'll select that purple line again. I can zoom in, and I want to put it right on top of the red box line right there. So it's going to stitch the placement, and then I'll put my fabric down. It'll stitch this. I'll flip my fabric over and tape it off to the side. Then we're on to the roof section. So let me come out a little bit and we'll go up, bring this to the center. All right, so on the roof, when you select the roof, it gives you this outer box measurement. So add your seam allowance to that right now for your fabric, if your fabric size. So you want make a rectangle, and you can always trim this afterwards. Now, with this one, we're not going to do an edit. We're going to use the lines, but we do not need to use auto border. So let me move this down to the center a little bit. So while it's selected, I'm going to go to edit nodes, and I'm going to split outline on all of these. Now, before I go any further, I'm actually going to keep it selected. I want to move it up just a little bit. Sometimes these lines are hard to see when you have them. I think they'll be okay, but we'll try it first this way, and then if we have to, we'll move them up. All right, so here are those lines. I'm going to click off of it. I'm going to select it again. It's still selected. I can do right click, break apart, and now I can select those different pieces and see how they're sort of under these lines and they've gone away. What I want to do is just bring it up like this so I can see where those lines are. And maybe they're not going to show for me today. Let's slide them down here to the bottom. Then they'll be on the top. There we go. All right. And I'm going to actually put them back into their space like this. They were sitting right here like this. Okay. Now they're all broken apart. I need to select them one at a time and change their colors. So if I select here, I have this top piece, and I can make it the light purple. And this side here, I'm going to skip the yellow, go to pink, the pale pink. I'm going to leave this one the blue, and I'll go over here and change this one to orange. And you'll see in the sequence, they're all different colors. And I still have the solid there. If I select here, I can delete the solid because I don't really need the solid. So I'm going to delete that. Sometimes it makes like a ghost thing in there. And maybe we'll have to delete it from all of these actually. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so now it's deleted. Okay, so the first one we want to work with is the placement line, and that's that top line that's going to be up here. And if you can't click on it, what I like to do is I will just click on it here. And then I can move it up so that it is about a 1/4 inch up this way, because the top of my fabric needs to reach at least that far. The blue line is going to be the stitch line, so I'm not going to worry about that for right now. These lines here are my side stitch lines, so I'm just going to make sure that they are in alignment with, and I'm going to select the bottom one because these sort of moved out of position on me. Let's see, this one and this one, and I'm just going to slide them that way. There we go. So these are going to be stitch lines. So the first line we need to put in is this placement line up here. So we need to move that in our sequence menu up here, and it's going to go after our pieces that were our last side section right there. So this is the placement. And now we need to put the line that's here because we need to stitch it down. And I can come down here and grab it. I can move it up. And it's going to go after that line. So my placement line will be, let me get it in order. My placement line will be here. I'll lay my fabric right sides down to the center, the middle fabric. Then it'll stitch this and I'll flip it up. Next, it's going to do these side tack downs. So it'll do this one, and I could click on both of these and drag them up at the same time. And then it'll do the one on the other side, just to hold that fabric down for me. There we go. All right, so let's see if we've got that all figured out. Yes. Then we're going to work on the side triangles. So everything's still in order. We're still working nicely. We're going to work on the side triangles. And on this one, we are going to do an auto border on this. All right, so we're going to come up here to convert, auto border to the outside, and okay. There it is. Because we really want the line that's over here. And we're actually going to use this line as well. So we'll need to do a little bit of clipping of our nodes or splitting our outlines. So when you're up here, you want to right click on your top right node and split outline. You're going to split outline down here, and you're going to split outline up here. You're going to click off of it, select it, and then hover on it and break apart. There we go. And now we're going to select off of it, and then we can click right here. This line we're going to keep. Let's see if they've come apart. Did it come? Yep, it did. All right, so that line we're going to keep. I'm going to move it back. There we go, to where it was. And I'm going to change the color, like the color of that. We used, I think we used that pink last, so we can come to this orange. And we need this line on the side over here. I'm going to make that one brown, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, this beige color. We don't need this line here because, well, we could leave it. It's our placement line up there, but you do have the roof placement line, so you can just make it go up as far as the roof. So that makes sense there. So we can actually delete this line here. And I'm just going to double check in my directions. Okay, so we could actually, there's a second way to do this. You can keep them as separate lines, but let's do this. Let's undo until it's all one piece. There, it's one piece. Let's do our edit nodes, and we're going to, maybe they are split here. Let me go back one more. Okay. Here, we're going to select this one and split outline, and we're going to split outline this one. This makes more sense. I should just read my directions as I go. I'm going to hover, and you'll see why in a minute. We're going to hover on that. We're going to right click and break apart. And then this corner piece should be still, oh, it's still breaking. I think I clicked on the wrong one. Let me undo this again. All right, I'm going to go back to convert to curves so you can see this. This is a better, I think, a better way to do it, and it is in the directions. I just was getting carried away here. There's that. Okay, now I can do edit nodes, and I want to do this node and this node. I want to leave this L-shaped piece, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. There's split outline there, and split outline there. Okay, now select it, right click, break apart, and I should be able to select this part here and just move it slightly. There we go. So this corner part, we can leave it like that because this is the placement line. So it's going to stitch this, so I know when I flip my corner that it has to come at least this far. All right. The other line is going to be the stitch line right here, and we're going to move it into that place. But we need to change color of that at this point. And while I'm over here, I'm going to make it this brown color. And I should be able to use my arrow key, or as long as I click off and click back on, and I want to bring it right to this edge because that's the seam line. And yes, it's going to stitch into the top there, but that's fine. I'm going to move it there, and I'm going to move it up a little bit because when you move it over, it loses a little bit of its edging. There we go. This part right down here and that part there. Okay, so now I have the placement and I have the stitch line. Here they are right here, and I'm going to take them, and since I left this in, I can bring it up like this and put it right before that piece. So it's going to stitch this piece. I'm going to put my fabric down. It'll stitch, my fabric will lay over here, and I'll flip it over. And now I have this piece right here, but I should take this piece and make it another color so we don't delete it when we delete there. So let's do the darker brown, or actually I'm going to make it this red color actually, so it's deeper. All right, so now I can just take this one and delete it. And I'm going to work over here to this one and do the same kind of thing. I'll go to convert auto border to the outside. Okay. I'm going to edit nodes. I want to click on this one and split outline this one. I'm going to do this one a little bit faster since we did it already. Select it, hover on it, right click, break apart. And then this piece here, we can change the color of it. Let's go, we'll use this blue here. And then this piece here, we're going to use this dark green. There we go. So we have two parts now, and I'm going to put them in the order. This one needs to be above that one because it's going to do placement and then stitch down. I'm going to hit shift and touch both of them and bring it up, and it's going to go before this piece here. There we go. And now all I have to do is click on this piece and delete that piece. I do need to move this line over to my roof edge because that is where we did the tack down of our roof. So we probably want that over there. And we'll move it over like this and up a little, back. You have to kind of do it because you're on an angle. All right, and we'll take a quick look over here. For some reason, that line is in the, oh, I know what I did. I did not move that corner line, I think, when I did my roof. Let me see. Yeah. This is where you'll find parts where you might have done the line that's under here. This line actually needs to be over here. And for some reason, I didn't move it, or I deleted the wrong one or something. Here we go. These two lines need to be on top of each other because this is the tack down of the side of my roof, and then this is going to be the stitch line. And it should just breeze the edge of your square. I think that's going to be right. Let's see. Yeah, oh, that's why. All right, let me go back and show you my mistake here. I'll correct my mistake if we go back far enough. Remember I said this is stitch and flip. So I'm going to move this one. Let's see, we'll move that dark green one back over here where it was. The roof isn't in the same spot on the house. The roof has to come down and cover your side piece, and that's where I got confused. I thought I was working off this corner. So my original piece is in the right spot because it needs to come to the edge of the side piece. This piece needs to be put right on top of it so that it'll come right to there. And let's look at, I'm going to go back to the photo over here of the house so you can see that, what I'm talking about. I think here you'll see it better. And sorry for the confusion. We will go here to the picture. All right, so here what I'm talking about is this part right here. So the roof doesn't come to here on mine. It comes to over here. That's why we need this. The roof needs to come all the way here, and the corner piece needs to be stitched right to there as well. This one is a little bit further out, so that line is going to be over there. Okay, you'll have to look at you have to take a look at your pieces and where they fall. That's why just looking at the lines, you may have to refer back to the solid parts over here, if that makes any sense. So let me go back to the software, and here we go. Let's go back there. And so now I have my corner pieces. I'm going to need to move them up if they're not there already. There's that one. There's that one. So it's going to stitch it down. So that's good. Now I can move on to this top piece that's going to secure all of these pieces up here. So this one here, and I'll go back and refer to the directions again. The side triangles, and you may find an easier way to do this. Sometimes what you see here might be confusing, so you just have to remember we are doing stitch and flip. So we need a placement so we know how far our fabric has to go when we flip it, and we need a stitch line. So the top rectangle, what we can do is we're going to do the auto border again up here to the outside. Okay. We're going to edit nodes, and then we actually are going to split all the outline, all the edges. So we only need the top and the bottom of this. And then I'm going to select it, break apart. And then this little corner piece, I'm going to delete that corner. I don't need that edge, and I don't need this edge. I'm going to use this one here, but I don't know if I have another color that is that color. So let's go down here, and I'll use, I don't think I have anything else in here that's color. That one is going to be, we'll leave that one the same. The top one is out here. It's already outside, so that's the placement. Let's make that this bright red here. And then this one here needs to align with the edge of your solid piece, because this solid piece is where the roof touches the sky. So if I keep this the same color, it's going to get mixed up in there. So I'm going to come down here and use this powder blue color. And then I'm going to use my arrow key. I'll click off of it, click onto it. I'll move it up in position. I'm not going to delete this just yet because I want to move these two lines up, and they're going to go up above that piece right here. There they are. So we have the placement, and which is not the placement. So I need to move these into order. So you have your placement, always double check. Then we have our stitch down. Now I can delete this part here with my delete key. There we go. And I think what's happening here when I deleted that, let's undo. I think we need some remove overlaps. Let me see what happens when I drag it up here. Oh, those, yeah, that's why that's happening. These are those corner pieces. And I must have drew these, but not kept them on the right line. You see how they come down a little bit? That's not a problem. On my real house over here, they're nice and straight. You can see they're nice and straight. But here, when I drew them, I probably didn't have snap on at that point, and they kind of dripped down a little bit. All right, so I can take this now and select it and delete it. There we are. Okay, I could come back in here and edit nodes and fix this if it drives me crazy, which it might. There we go. And this one here. So if you have any of that happening, you can definitely fix your lines if you need to straighten something out. There we go. Then I'm going to do the side pieces just the same way. And then I'll do the bottom piece just the same way. So I don't think I'm going to go over that. It's the same thing on all of those that I did with this top piece. So you can see how that's going to work. All right, once I got all of this done, this is where I went and created my my house applique door. And I created a door here. And I'm going to select it and make it a little bit wider. There we go. And I had it up just a little bit so it's not right on the bottom. Then in my properties, I went to fill and applique right here. And I wanted a satin. Now you can make your satin a little wider if you want, a little narrower, but this will give you all the stops, and I'll show you that when we go over here to slow redraw. When I start this up, it's going to do the placement line, and it's going to do what's called a jump out. And then there's the jump out. And then you'll lay your fabric and it'll stitch it down now. It's going to jump out again. And then it's going to start, you'll trim, and it's going to start your zigzag. So it'll do an underlay, and then it'll do a layer on top of it. So I put that one in. Let's go back to this one. Whoops, where are we? This one. And I made my window over here. Same way. I did change the color of my window just so that it was different. Let's just make it these two yellow colors. There we go. And go to properties and fill, applique, satin. There we go. So it has that there. This one had two different colors, so that's why it's two different colors. This is all one color. So there you have that. The next part is those little designs that I put in there. And those are flowers that are from our tools clip art library, I believe. And I think they're down here under flowers. And I just went through here and found one that I liked. And it might have been this one. And insert. And I actually started over here on the side like this. And I made my flower. And I may have removed some parts of this flower as well. Let me undo that. There we go. Let me look at it in the house here where it was. Yeah, let me copy this one over and I'll show you what I did. Because it had too many layers. And this is going to paste right over here, so I'm going to have to get it. So I took pieces away because it's just so much stitching, and I like a simpler flower. It did not need all those parts. So I came in here and did ungroup, and I deleted this center part and this part here, and then the blue part, I made it larger, like this. Let's see here. You can actually make a new circle if you want. So you could make this larger, or you could just make your own circle and put it in there, which I might have done. There it is. And now you have the two-tone flower. You can make it the colors you want. This part here, I think I had is a nice pink. Let's see if I can find that. Or maybe I'll do it this nice orange. The center, I'll do this yellow. Whoops. Well, we'll do the center orange then. And then this was green. So this, there we go, is green. There we go. So you can, and there might be a little spot here. I'll delete that. There's like a little extra piece in there. There we go. So I had my flowers and then I just brought them in. Let's go back to it. I brought them in and placed them. We'll delete this one. Put them where oh no, that was one that was supposed to be there. Sorry. Just put one outside my house and one in on the edge, front of the house under the window, making them smaller. This is sitting right between the pieces, so I know it's going to stitch in that section that's over here. And this is the edge of the grass, so it's almost on the grass. You could put it so that it's coming out of the grass and then the grass will cover it. So that's really up to you how you want to do it. So let's go back to the picture of the house. The last thing too, when you get down to your flowers, and I didn't do it over here in my sequence window, here you can see I have this piece, I have this weird piece, which I'll probably delete like that. And then, so now that's together. I have pink, I have it going again. So I would want to put these greens together unless I wanted them different green colors. So I could select these and move them together. You want the green to stitch first in your design. So you would collect up all your green. Let's ungroup that. I just want to get rid of this little piece. There we go. And I'm just going to bring this up and group it with the other green. I could group my colors other ways, but this is one way to do it. So now all the green will stitch. Then I can move the pink because I want the pink to stitch next, not the yellow. So I'm going to select my pink and move it up. So all the pink, then all the yellow. So it'll stitch this, this, and then this. If you want that on top. If you don't want it on top, I wanted the yellow on top, which I like it on top. It kind of covers those edges. Okay, I'll switch it, you'll see. So you could have it like this if you want. To me, it didn't look finished, so I liked it like that. And you would just organize your colors. Once everything's in the order that you want, what you would do is go over here to your slow redraw and watch it stitch. And in your mind, think about the pieces as they go on so you can see where they're going to make sure you have them in the spots that they are needed. Okay? All right. I know it's probably confusing, but take it a little step at a time. Look at the directions and go from there. I'm going to go back to the picture of the house here to end it up so you can see that. There we go. All right, I'll move this out of the way. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see here. There we go. Especially, let me move this up, especially here. So you can see I put that flower right above the stitch line. So you can see it right there. And then my two little flowers over on the other side. You could do anything you want. You could make a flower box to put under your window. You could put, make curtains in here if you wanted. That gets more complicated. Or you can put something, over the door. Maybe you want a house number or you want your name or something like that. You could do that. Or something, maybe you need something on this part of it too. So it's all up to you what you want to do. If you have questions, please post them to the comments so I can help with that. And as I said, this is our Mystery Quilt Block Party, Block 11, Part 2. Part 1 is located in two places, actually, over on the Janome Sewing Machine page and also over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook group page under guides, under Mystery Quilt Block Party Guide. All right, everyone, have a great day. Enjoy doing your blocks.